Now, I gotta be honest with you, I never thought I'd be sitting down and talking about the person we're going to be talking about today. Because when it comes to celebrity or Hollywood or anything of the like, I usually try to steer clear of it, but this story and the evidence that has been circulating around has created a mystery that is far more interesting than I could have originally thought. Depending on your age, you may remember Paula Abdul for either her career as a singer or as a long-standing judge on American Idol. Both incredibly successful positions that landed her in the spotlight for numerous occasions. However, many people don't know about the massive gap in her career after 1992 that led to her appearing as a judge on American Idol in the 2000s. And that's where today's topic kicks off. As mentioned previously, Paula Abdul had a very successful career as a singer early on. By the time her second studio album was released, with several #1 singles, she had begun headlining a tour by the name of Under My Spell. While the tour was successful and she managed to complete it, there are a lot of unknowns that make this entire story hard to make out for sure. According to her own website dedicated to the tour, Abdul had suffered serious neck and back injuries at the end of the tour when she was flying in a private jet and the plane was forced to make an unplanned emergency landing. Abdul admits she was unbuckled in the cabin at the time of this incident, and while this is just one instance of the story being told without many of its details, further discussion later on in years would raise many questions, as it will soon become apparent that we aren't getting the full story. For one, in an interview she did in 2003, she would claim that she did 30 of the shows on tour with a torn knee and would cite the plane crash incident again, this time stating she had undergone 10 spinal surgeries as a result of the injuries from this tour. And while it's definitely apparent that something caused her to take time off after this tour, we're going to get into what we actually know in a bit, but for now I want you to listen to her story in 2014 when she was asked why she had given up singing and later ended up on American Idol.
Why'd you give up singing when you had this incredible career of 6 of your songs reached #1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100? Why'd you decide to pack it in, and you've done such incredible stuff? Why'd you decide to move on to something else?
Nothing was by design. A lot of people, I didn't tell people I was going through some tremendous hard times with my health. Started when I was a cheerleader, being dropped. I had a lot of injuries. Then going on to become a choreographer and doing things that, to raise the bar and do dance moves that, the body isn't, when you're injured, you're not supposed to do. And mixed with a few car accidents where I was hit really hard, I started developing spinal cord problems. And while I was on tour, I was in a 7-seater jet, and I faced a crash landing. Plane was in flames. An engine blew up when I was performing in St. Louis, and I was on my way to Denver. I had just finished on stage, and one of the engines blew up and we plummeted, and the right wing caught on fire, and I broke through my seatbelt and I ended up hitting my head on top of the plane, and I was knocked out. And when I came to, the whole plane was in flames and the pilot was knocked out, and the co-pilot was able to crash land us in a cornfield. And I don't remember much of it, but I do remember that people were bloodied up. I had my manager and tour manager and tour accountant. I had my hair and makeup artist on the plane.
Now, this story has been told on multiple occasions. It's quite tragic and quite a comeback story. She has gone on to do various interviews with other talk show hosts as a way of promoting her future work. However, I will note that it's interesting that in this interview that I'm showing right now, she claims to have had 15 cervical surgeries as opposed to her previous claim of 10 spinal surgeries back in 2003. Getting back to the plane crash, this individual story, it has been told countless times with quite a few inconsistencies.
Well, it's been really fun to follow you because, we remember back when you were, well, a lot of us don't remember unless you were in LA at the time that you were a Laker girl and a choreographer, but we remember all the songs, and then you weren't as present during some of the 90s, and then all of a sudden, boom, back on American Idol. It has just been a wild ride for you.
Yeah, when I wasn't visible, that's when I was enduring all of the spinal cord surgeries.
Now, given the fact that you were doing 10 spinal cord surgeries during this time, how did you manage to release an entire album in 1995? And how did you also manage to release a dance workout video entitled Paula Abdul's Get Up and Dance?
Now, tell us a little bit about that, because you know what? There's so many things we learn a little bit. You're like an onion, Paula.
You know what?
We peel away layers and we learn more about you as we go.
And we cry sometimes.
And you cry, and then you cry from laughing.
Right. So tell us about the spinal cord injury. What happened with that?
Well, I was on tour, and in the end of '93, I was leaving. It was on my birthday too. I was leaving St. Louis.
Now, given the fact that she said 1993 when the tour wasn't even going on, I'll let that slide. But in 1992, on the day of her birthday, she was not in St. Louis. On June 10th, 1992, she played her last show in Greenwood Village, Colorado. Next scheduled show was actually in Salt Lake City, Utah. And then several canceled shows from June 13th, June 16th, and June 18th all appear until she recontinues on June 23rd.
And I was on a 7-seater private plane.
Okay.
I was going to Denver, and close to 40 minutes into the air, one of the engines blew up, and the right wing caught on fire, and we plummeted, and I broke through my seatbelt and smashed my head on top of the plane.
So you actually, I mean, this could have been a horrible, I mean, a much more of a serious of a result, but you broke through your seatbelt, hit your head. You were in a plane crash.
I was in a plane. When I was knocked out, when I came to, everyone was holding hands. The entire plane was in flames. Half the other engine blew, and the co-pilot crash landed us in a cornfield in Iowa.
Wow. In Iowa?
Somewhere in Iowa, yeah.
Wow. Now, this is a dumb question that has nothing really to do with Paula Abdul, but what do you think when you realize the plane is on fire, you lost an engine? What kind of goes through your mind? Did you think this is it?
Everyone thought this was it. Everyone did, and I said, I was going, no. My life's just begun. Help.
Because you were like maybe 30 years old back then.
I was 27.
Okay,
yeah.
She did lie about her age here, but what woman doesn't? So I'll let that one slide too.
27, and it was not fun.
No, that's horrifying.
I mean, so you you had a spinal cord injury. You're so lucky you weren't paralyzed.
I became paralyzed from the top of my head to my toes, all completely on my right side. And I spent the next 5 years enduring around 11 surgeries. Around 10. And then when I got American Idol, I ended up having a surgery almost every single season.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
And I just had my 15th operation right before I started this season's auditions. I was literally out of the hospital, and 3 days later packed my bags and went on the road.
All right, so you were paralyzed for 5 years after that, and you claim this was from 1993, yet up until 1998, you appeared in a television film by the name of Touched by Evil, and you also managed to release another workout video. This is insane. Now, let's assume she even was flying from St. Louis to Denver. How did she end up landing in a cornfield in Iowa if the location is 220 miles north of the actual flight path? And something you need to know about aviation safety is that these types of things are taken incredibly seriously. Yet if you take a look through all of the NTSB's records and accident reports, there are none that match the description of this individual event in 1992 or 1993. And given that this woman was nearly at the height of her singing popularity at the time, how was no press able to pick this story up? It's not in any news headlines, it's not in any FAA reports, and it's completely wiped off the map. Now, I think it's painfully obvious that this plane crash story isn't true, and I actually managed to dig up some of the newspaper clippings from when this was going on because something caused her to cancel that individual show, and I'll read it to you now. This is from the Tyler Courier-Times on the 16th of June 1992, where it reads, Singer Paula Abdul hospitalized Sunday. Houston AP. Pop singer Paula Abdul has been hospitalized with the flu after canceling a performance, her publicist says. Paula Abdul was admitted to St. Luke's Hospital Sunday with intestinal flu and dehydration. Dr. Lyon Hotchman, a Houston physician, said in the statement released Monday she has been treated and will be released shortly. And about a month later, another article would appear saying Abdul's knee is being treated. Pop singer-dancer Paula Abdul remains hospitalized in Atlanta, but her orthopedic surgeon said Monday that there will be no permanent damage to the left knee she injured during a concert last week in Cleveland. And in a final follow-up article, it would write, "No autographs, please. Pop singer Paula Abdul in town getting treatment for injured knee. Limped into Champs Sports at Lenox Square on Wednesday to buy some snorkel gear. She bought some fins, a mask, and a snorkel." Now, this entire situation blatantly shows that Paula's claims are false and leads the audience to wonder why the hell this story about a plane crash exists in the first place. And while there are reports of her undergoing a back surgery, what makes this even more questionable is that there are other injuries that I question entirely. For instance, in 1991, she also claimed to have broken her leg in a rehearsal, but there's no evidence or cast or anything to suggest that she was ever out of commission. When the validity of Paula's story has been asked, to this day she will refuse to correct the record and continues discussing the story as if it were fact. Now, I have a couple of theories as to why she is doing this, so let's get into that now. First off, it's apparent that this woman has been using some heavy dosage of medication for a long period of time. I want you to take a look at this Fox News interview that she did, and I'm surprised anyone let her go on in the first place.
Joining us now live from New York City with an exclusive season preview is American Idol judge Paula Abdul. Good morning, Paula.
Good morning, everyone. How are you?
We're doing great, thank you. Well, right off the bat, what do Idol fans have to look forward to this season, and what are you looking forward to seeing?
Well, is that what it is? I was wondering, what is that?
Somebody else must be talking to Paula. Are you there, Paula? Paula, good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
I'm going to ask that question one more time, okay?
I'll tell you.
Okay, what do Idol fans have to look forward to this season? What are you looking forward to?
Oh, I don't know if she can hear us right now.
I think we're having audio problems.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think we are. I think we might be having some problems.
We're going to try to get back with Paula. In the meantime, we're going to fix the audio problem and join her live from New York in just a moment.
Yeah.
Good morning, Paula Abdul, live from New York City.
Good morning, everybody.
She can hear us.
So tell us, what are you looking forward to this season?
How about a lot of you coming in? It's a wild party where you are.
Yeah, that's what we hear. We hear that Simon has actually said that this had some of the worst singers that he's ever heard. What did you think of the singers in Seattle?
Well, I have to agree with Simon.
Oh, no.
Paula?
Hey, you know what? It is what it is. And it was brilliant.
Now, this is no one-off occurrence for Paula Abdul, as there's entire compilations dedicated to her acting like this. Now, what's interesting is that in 2005, she told a news outlet that no substance had worked for her pain, but in 2009, she told another news outlet that for the first time in 12 years, she was no longer dependent on medication. And in the article referencing how she detoxed, it cites the beginning of her usage when she had a car crash, a plane crash, and 15 spinal surgeries. Now, according to her, she never took any form of physical medication, and what she was actually taking was a topical patch that was apparently 80 times more potent than morphine. And I believe the most logical theory in this case is that she's using these individual injuries as a way to justify how her usage started. Which brings me back to this news article. I want to preface this statement by saying that this is conjecture, because in this article, the person who's giving the statement is the publicist. Because the odds of you being hospitalized for influenza is around 12 in every 100,000. What I think actually happened during that tour was something far more dire that she wanted swept under the rug. And I actually have even more evidence to support this. Because in a 2006 interview with Larry King, he asked about that exact same plane crash, and he asked why he'd never heard about the plane crash. She responded, "Well, it did get some attention, but I didn't want to make I worked it out publicity-wise. I did not want," and Larry King would interrupt and say for people to milk it, and she would say yes. And while I'll admit this is me being conspiratorial, I think this is what happened. I think the story about the plane crash is sort of an allegory for a near-death experience that she had. Given how much she references it in shows and in talk shows, and it's even a part of her act, I think it's a way of reminding her to stay clean. But that's just a theory. As someone who's had my own struggles with this type of thing in the past, I'm not going to disparage her in any way. Addictions can really take years off of your life, and I'm sure in the realm of Hollywood, with a singer who was at the top of the world for a while, it must be something difficult to manage. This is Barely Sociable. Have a good night.